She was 16, lost as one always is at that age, but she in particular had seemed to have lost everything that she deemed important to her. Her sense of security, her friends, her sense of self, when in reality, that was all about to be stolen from her. An older man, scary yet appealing, had offered to take her home in a taxi one night. And so she accepted, and from that point on was where she still had a choice. But, like many lost and wondering young girls whose curiosity often gets the best of them, she decided to fall into the trap of what seemed like loving arms, when in reality they were the arms of a skilled manipulator, one who had already selected his victim in the months where all she knew was a face, the curly hair, the blue eyes, the gap between his teeth, and a name. Although people warned her she was a stubborn young thing, and she still is in many ways, who always wanted to decide on her own. But what she failed to realize was that there was no decision, and there was only something to be learned from an experience. He took everything from her. Her body no longer belonged to her, nor her clothes, nor the way she wore her hair or how much makeup she wore, nor even the way she spoke. But those things didn't matter to her in the end, because she knew that the one thing he never had was her head. She listened. She stayed quiet, silent even, in the moments where he spoke. He rambled on and on with his tactics, everything calculated, everything a game. But she worked it out, and he knew that. Rape feels like everything is stolen from someone. Your happiness, your innocence, your memories. An abusive relationship uncomfortable because it is comfortable to be told how to feel when you don't know who you are. The MeToo movement is a shining light for many, one that pushes power down so many people's throats and unveils the secrets of Hollywood. I read this inspiring quote by a woman called Amy Césaire who said, "My mouth will be the mouth of the sorrows who do not have a mouth." But I question, who is to say that those mouths represent the story of so many diverse individuals? Who is to say that the glamorized scene of Hollywood, with the bright lights and the black dresses, are to represent a holistic view on pain? For pain is what it represents. But pain does not belong to someone else. It belongs to each individual who suffers quietly, who may not choose to speak, who may not win that court case, who may be riddled with a fear that the Me Too movement mocks, creating a stereotype around it, around the men and the women who have come forward and spoken. But it is not simply speaking. It is lights and buzz and propaganda. It is fame. Perhaps there is nothing else to do but to tell me that I must speak up, but that is not yours to say. That is not yours to decide. Someone who I value greatly once asked me, "What do you feel?" And I said, "Well, I feel angry." And he said, "Well, what exactly do you feel angry about?" And I was confused and perplexed with this question because I thought, what isn't there to be angry about? But then I realized that there is a distinction. When I think about the general, undeniable, monstrous thing that happened, I am angry, but not necessarily about that. I'm angry when I think about all the men and women that have been and will be, all the men and women that will be younger than I was, or older, or more naive, or will choose to stay longer than I did, all the men and women that will choose to give that man their head. When I think about what I see in my head sometimes, I am filled with an immense sadness, and that's the distinction. For under the umbrella lights that light the studios where these interviews take place with people like Rose McGowan, they're not thinking about themselves because when they do, their eyes fill with tears and they look like children. But when they talk, they are thinking about all who have been and will be, and therefore they seem angry, and they go on, and that irritates people, and we shut off. And that is where the stereotype originates. One cannot find strength in attention, in the white noise that ultimately simply distracts. because no matter how much you have said or how much you have done, whether you have won that court case that represents so much more than the body you took, but the innocence that is forever destroyed, you will find yourself alone, crying, broken, undeniably struck with the question as to why you don't feel any better than you did before. It is not for a movement of people to tell you how to gain your strength back or how to gain your power back, that your voice is the only way to overcome this. Because a voice is something audible, which makes it belong just as much to the person that hears it as it does you. What belongs to you is what you feel. Stop distracting yourself. Stop cutting it short. Stop looking away. Just stop and feel it and look at it. It is the simplest thing you will do, yet the hardest. Your experience, your pain, your memories, or what you do and don't remember, is exclusive to you. It is exclusive to only you. It is not for people to understand because they won't. And that shouldn't scare you. That should rivet you. That should liberate you. Question what movements, such as the MeToo movement's intentions are. Perhaps originally a good one, but then why are there so many problems surrounding it? The girl that I first mentioned was so lost 2 years ago, but she's found much of what makes her up now. She still sees that moment from time to time in her head, but she still works on it. My mind is something that I love because it operates me. I am the only one who will ever be able to understand it fully. I have forgiven myself and my head for forgetting to stop me and for letting me follow that man. Find what is most important to you, and you may ultimately see that it is not something that can be seen or touched, but instead felt. That is where your strength lies. That is where you lie. That is where the future lies. Thank you.